Hello, welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Sunday evening. Joining us from New York City, back on the East Coast, just in time for all the snow, is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
And joining us from Oklahoma City, where he saw the Thunder break their long losing streak. I was worried that the Thunder were headed for disaster, but they righted the ship today against the 76ers. It's MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Shea sat out a fourth quarter and was just happy over there on the bench. It was quite a different sight than these last couple against the Spurs, but the Sixers, they're no Spurs. There was no Wemby, no Embiid either, for that matter. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Thunder are probably going to end up being just fine.
Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein today tweaked his calf, though. So that's a bit of a concern. I suspect there could be some updates by Monday on that.
Well, yeah, they play tomorrow, so there will be updates, at least some level of an update. Left late in the third, did not return. This will shock you to know that the Thunder were tight-lipped about it post-game. And, and we will see. But, it's obviously those calf injuries are tricky and finicky, and that was not an encouraging development.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. The Thunder have depth, though, and they've shown it before at the big man position, so they may have to deal with him. We just had this Austin Reeves injury where he had a calf injury, came back for 2 games, re-injured the calf, and now is out at least a month. Although I think the Lakers said that it was a different part of the calf or a different injury that wasn't related to the other. I don't know. I'm skeptical of that, but I'm not a
medical
doctor.
degree, but yeah, I doubt it.
Well, yeah, no team wants to give the concept that they brought a player back too early. Like
right.
That's, whether it is or it isn't, no team wants that. So anyway, Monday, the Thunder play the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are an interesting team right now. So they have lost 6 games in a row. They have fallen completely into the play-in zone in the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone from several games over 500 to several games under. And I don't know how to say this other than it coincides with Trae Young returning from injury, from that knee injury.
Their record, just looking at their record is awful with Trae Young in the lineup and good without him. That is,
yeah. Bontemps, you have what's the raw number?
The raw numbers are when Trae Young plays, the Hawks this year have gone 2-8, and that includes a game in Brooklyn against the Nets when he got hurt, when I believe the score in the first 5 minutes of that game was something like 18-2, and he then hurt his knee. They came back and won the game. But I'm pulling up quickly, trying to pull up what the Giannis splits are for him. So when Trae is on the court this season, the Hawks have a defensive rating in 280 minutes of 126.2, which for the record is not great. They're being outscored by almost 7 points per 100 possessions. And when he's on the court, their defensive rating goes all the way down to 112.9, and they're even. So it's a negative, almost 7-point swing. The offense does get worse, but not as much as the defense gets dramatically better. And therein lies the problem with Trae Young and the Hawks.
Yeah. So he was out almost exactly 6 weeks. Okay. And in those 6 weeks, the Hawks went 13-9, and they ranked 12th in defense in those 6 weeks, which is, middle of the pack, but, certainly puts you in position to compete. Jalen Johnson he played, out of the 22 games that Trae missed, Jalen Johnson played in 20 of those games. And he averaged 23 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists on 51% shooting when Trae was out. Since Trae's come back, there's been 6 games. They've lost all 6. He's only played in 5 of them. He did skip, I think, a back-to-back. In those 6 games, And again, he didn't play in one, and they got blown out in that game by San Antonio. But in those 6 games, they've ranked 28th in defense since he came back.
I'm going to say another factor there is Porzingis has also missed all those games.
Absolutely. Porzingis has been out the last couple. Actually, he's been out straight the last couple of weeks, but he's missed a lot of time in the last month dealing with illness. Shams and Young reported on Sunday that he could be back in the next few days, however, coming back from dealing with the illness. Absolutely true. But Porzingis missed a lot of time before that, too, where they were better defensively. So, and here's Trae's numbers. He's come back, and he's played in 5 games. He's averaging 21 points a game. He's shooting 39 and change. I'll give him 40% from 3, and he's averaging 10 assists. He is not playing poorly offensively. He's played he's dogging it out there. It's just that their systems defensively are really, they suffer when Trae's out there. It's not all a product of him. I'm sure if Quinn Snyder was here or if Trae was here, he could illustrate ways that maybe that's unfair to assign it to him. But, the numbers are the numbers.
Well, and the other thing here is the Hawks certainly are indicating that they're looking for the exit ramp with Trae Young. They did not make any attempt to get him signed to an extension. When that's the case with your face of the franchise, that's a pretty clear message that the end could be near. And we've talked about this a lot with Trae. The same is true with Ja Morant in Memphis and with LaMelo Ball in Charlotte, that if there's an attempt to trade these guys, it's not going to be easy. There's not going to be some wide array of teams raising their hand and trying to get in on the bidding. And I'm not sure if you're even going to be able to make a trade that's going to bring value in return.
If you look at the Hawks roster, the theory of the Hawks is pretty clear, right? They want to have long, rangy, athletic players at every position. And pretty much all the moves they've made have been geared towards doing that. And when Trae wasn't playing, they were rolling out there with a lineup with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu and Zachary Richeche, last year's number 1 overall pick. Those guys all are long, rangy, athletic players, right? And they don't have a ton of size. They've struggled on the boards at times. They're not a perfect team. They struggled in the half court offensively. Like they had pretty rough offensive half court numbers. But there was a theory of what that group looked like, and that it worked at least to a certain degree. And they were, a pretty competitive team. Trae doesn't fit in that vision at all. And when you look at the modern league and the amount of physicality that is going on in these games, and we've talked about the emphasis on offensive rebounding and just the size the teams are playing with across the board. Trae's one of the smaller players in the league. He's always been a rough defensive player, and it's not hard, while you can argue it's not fair, it's not hard to do a 1-to-1 correlation of the defense going off a cliff with Trae Young on the court and say the offense coming down is going, we can go at Trae Young every time and have success. So to your point, MacMahon, we're in a situation now where if you're the Hawks, like, it doesn't seem like Trae fits long term. And so the question is there a path to getting him elsewhere that can allow them to pivot in a direction where they can focus on the way they've been building this team, which is in a vision of guys that frankly don't fit Trae's profile? And I think that's one of the bigger questions to watch in the league between now and the trade deadline, because if you look around the league, for all the reasons we've been talking about all these point guards, and you wrote that story with Bobby about it, there's not a lot of teams that need point guards, and there's not a lot of places where you go, yeah, this team is anxious to go trade for a $45 million guy, which is the same part of why Anthony Davis's trade market is impacted, and all these other guys that are potentially on the market might not be going anywhere.
Sounds like young Mr. Bontemps is a Trae Young fan, is not liking what he's hearing in the background over there.
Mr. Bontemps is still adjusting to East Coast life. It's been a long day of naps for him. So he's still trying to get back to sleep.
Jet lag for the little Bond. Although young Mr. Bontemps has been to the West Coast about 4 times already. And
he's got a better passport game than I do, too. It's ridiculous.
That is
I
true.
think that's accurate.
No, but with Trae, I don't know. I don't know where the destination would be. Like Minnesota would like to upgrade at point guard, but I don't know if there's a deal that makes sense for the Wolves. The problem is the salary. Just making the salary match is going to be tough. And like, I can just tell you, the Mavericks would like to work out a deal to send Anthony Davis to Atlanta, but Trae Young's not going to be part of that. They want to move forward with Kyrie Irving as their point guard, and you're not going to play those two guys together.
And by the way, just to interject, if the Hawks do a deal for Anthony Davis that doesn't include Trae Young, they are not only a second apron team in 2026-27, they're like wildly into the second apron in 2026-2027. The Atlanta Hawks are not going to be wildly into the second apron. They haven't even been into the tax in a long time. So that is not, to me, any sort of realistic path to something happening.
Now, that's assuming Trae would pick up his player option, but given the chilly trade market, it's probably in his best interest to pick up that player option.
You have to operate under the assumption with options that people will do the thing that's in their best interest. And as of today, it's hard for me to sit here and see Trae Young doing anything other than picking up an option for 2026-27 for almost $49 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trae is in the situation like we've seen many players in years past where is there a possibility that he could work out a contract where he declines the player option, takes a new contract that guarantees him more money over years but lowers the average salary? That's possible. However, that's hard to do when you've been the franchise player of a team and you're still in your prime years.
And I think Trae is one of the first. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's possible for him to maybe do that with another franchise, but I don't know that at this point it makes a lot of sense for the Hawks to even give him a pay cut extension.
Well, I would argue it doesn't. And it also goes back to the same thing we've been talking about for more than a year now, which is we are entering into a new reality from a financial standpoint across the league. And Trae is one of the first guys who's, these all-star max players who is now running into this new reality of the financial constraints of this new CBA. And 5 years ago, Trae probably does get a max or probably does get something close to a max or has been
maybe
traded somewhere for a big.
What's that? With you. Maybe not even 5 years ago.
Right, maybe not even. But things would have been different, I would, just to say 5 years ago for a safe exercise. I think this whole situation would look different. But it's not 5 years ago.
He would have extended already.
Yeah, certainly that would be, if you go off the prior decade of evidence that we have, he's a guy that would either be on the Hawks or would be extended, or to MacMahon's point, would be elsewhere and extended. And the fact that he's not, I think, goes back to all of these big questions that are coming in terms of how things are going to look different in this new system that we're in. And he's one of the first guys that I think is really running into the realities of that, where there's not a huge market for his services. And he's going to say, hey, I'm making this money. I'm an all-star player. I'm putting up big numbers. Like, I should be getting paid. And I'm just not sure where the market is.
Especially if you're a Trae Young fan, you're like, the guy's did he lead the league in assists last year, or was he second?
I believe he led last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the guy puts up routinely 20 and 10. Like, he averages 20 and 10. And so you're saying, well, wait a minute, how can a player who averages 20 and 10 who's 27 years old, you're talking about how there's not that much of a market for him. And I can understand why that's hard. It's a hard sell. It's certainly a hard sell to him. The thing, so his number next year, his player option is $49 million. That is 30% of next year's cap. And we've just illustrated that, at least right now, and we'll see what happens the rest of the season. I don't know, but right now him being out there is not contributing. It's not that he's hurting the team.
It's not
but
helping the Hawks
way
win.
He
it's
plays,
hurting. Well,
and
you just
can't have a
team.
Well, you can't have a guy making 30% of the cap who has that sort of effect, whether it's his fault or it's circumstances or whatever. And so that's the reality.
Right. And this is a situation where Trae Young making $25 million has a much different market, right? But you can't, this isn't baseball. You can't say, hey, Minnesota, we'll take on $20 million of Trace money and you send us back 25, right? That doesn't work in the NBA. So whether it's Anthony Davis or Trae Young or any of these other guys, like this is, like MacMahon said it a bunch of times. Anthony Davis wants to get extended wherever he goes, right? Okay, well, Anthony Davis is due to make $120 million the next 2 years and is approaching 35 years old and gets hurt a lot. That is not a realistic expectation to go somewhere and get extended for a huge number going into your late 30s when you have that evidence behind you of what this is going to look like. And
Jeff Stotts, who runs In Street Clothes, he's a good follow on X, and he's got his blog In Street Clothes. He stopped me when he put out the number this week, or I guess last week. So AD is out right now with a groin injury. Was he day-to-day, MacMahon?
They're saying he's day-to-day. Shams reported he's expected to miss at least a few games.
Okay. This is the 13th groin injury of Anthony Davis's career where he's missed
When did
games.
groins become adductors, by the way?
So whatever, call it whatever you want. It's the
Yeah.
13th time. I mean, that is, wow. I mean,
Yeah, it's tough. And obviously there's been calves, there's been, multiple other injuries, but I mean, he's played this year less than half the Mavericks games. Since he's been in a Mavericks uniform, it's way less than half the games. And he's a very, like, dude, they're a 500 team with him and 4-13 without him this year. He's still an extraordinarily impactful player. I mean, he's a walking double-double and, still one of the best defensive bigs in the league, especially, he wasn't in great shape early in the season as he's gotten in better shape. But, again, entering his mid-30s, very expensive now, wants to continue to be very expensive with more guaranteed years. It's a complicated trademark. And the other thing is, the Mavericks are sitting here. They gave up a perennial first-team All-NBA player entering his prime to get this guy. Even though the guy who made the trade,
I heard something about that.
Yeah, the guy who made the trade is gone, but the owner who approved it is still the final decision maker. And do you want to take back? Because whatever they get for Anthony Davis, people can look at it and go, "This is what the return for Luka ended up being." And, so you've got that, call it pride or whatever is in play here. And like the Mavericks are, if you think you're going to get the Bonanza picks package and all that for Anthony Davis, I think you're setting yourself up to be disappointed.
Well, yeah, that anchoring is part of this
This is a tough line to walk, isn't it? Because we're not trying to be critical of these guys. We're just trying to explain the way the other league is seeing them.
And it's just the new reality. It's the new reality of where the league is at from a financial standpoint. Like the NBA is operating more or less in a hard cap system now. Like it's very hard, especially in season, to move big salaries for anybody, even great players, even players you desperately want to have. Like to just construct a trade for a player making $45, $50, $55, $60 million is extremely difficult right now. It's very hard for teams to do. That's before you get into all these teams having traded draft picks and everything else. Like Cavs corner over the second apron, can't make a trade. The Knicks, $5 below the second apron, can't really realistically.
By the way, I got people coming at me because I keep saying it's impossible for the Cavs to make. I think I said impossible.
It's difficult.
Obviously, there are trades that the Cavs can make that work on the trade machine.
That's right. It's just unrealistic to expect them to make a lot of moves.
But making a trade that makes them better, that is legal, you start entering fantasy land.
That's right. Well, it's very hard to do.
And the other thing is when you're dealing with a guy like Anthony Davis, or in the case of Kevin Durant last year, I think it's similar situations. They're going to have some say in the matter. Like you couldn't just trade Kevin Durant to Golden State if you didn't want to go there. It's just not the reality of the way that the NBA works. You can't just trade Anthony Davis to a team that's not willing to give him an extension this summer. That's not the way this works. And it's not an insult to Anthony Davis to say, hey, the market for Kevin Durant was a good starter in Dillon Brooks.
And let's be honest, at the time, Dillon Brooks is seen as he's played really well for Phoenix. He's like a starter. I'm not even sure
He's a starter.
A good starter.
He was a good starter for the Rockets, but whatever.
No,
Dillon
I agree,
Brooks,
but I just mean it's not like he was some like a crazy value deal. That was a perfectly average contract.
Can I just say I was talking to an NBA GM in the last day or two who was like, when we were at the start of the season, we looked at the Suns and we sort of said that's an ezy game. Because he was talking about how in the Western Conference, like, the evaluation of schedules is like from where you were at the start of the season to now is totally different. They were like, he's like, we had a few games with the Suns early in the season and we thought those would be easy games. And we're like, those were not easy games. So Matt Ishbia, let it be known.
But again, the return for KD was Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, who you can sell that as an upside play, but really it's salary filler. And then their own pick back, which was the 10th overall pick. So again, if you're looking at, okay, that's what the market was for Kevin Durant, and you had to wait until the summer to get a deal done. For the Mavericks, if you can get a deal where you're getting draft compensation, and I don't think it'll be plural, expiring salary and a young guy with some upside, that to me is a great return for Anthony Davis that's going to not win any press conferences.
No, I mean, and that anchoring is the thing that's weighing on all these conversations, right? Like, to your point, MacMahon, Dallas has the Luka trade anchoring whatever happens with Anthony Davis, because whether Nico Harrison's there or not, obviously he's not. Any Anthony Davis's trade immediately is going to be reflected back on, well, he just got acquired for Luka, now he's getting traded for X, which isn't going to be Luka. I can just, news flash.
Maybe Luka Garza.
Right. And
by the way, Luka Garza's getting it done there in Boston.
That's right. Well, the Blazers beat the Celtics tonight. Nice win for them.
Yeah, the Celtics had a 4-game win streak.
Yeah, they've been playing really well.
By the way, breaking news from Intuit Dome.
Uh-oh.
I went to the Clippers Pistons first half tonight. I had to leave to do this podcast to make sure that MacMahon could get done. I don't know what his problem
you dragged out of there kicking and screaming, I'm sure. Go
on. My 8-year-old, who's attending the game tonight with my wife, my 8-year-old got a T-shirt from the T-shirt cannon.
Oh, nice!
It is 3 sizes too big. It's 3 sizes too big. Orange. It has nothing to do with the Clippers. I guess it has a Clippers logo.
Wait, no, it is. They have those weird like orange crush. It's like their uniforms. I had to ask them. I'm like, what is up with all this? And it's like some hodgepodge of all the different places.
Yeah,
there's like Buffalo Braves and San Diego Clippers, but like
I guess that is true. It's Sugar Rush, I think it's called, or something like that.
So it's tied into these uniforms. But if your alternate uniform requires like a 3-paragraph explanation,
he won't be ready to wear this T-shirt for 3 to 5 years, but he is very excited. It's just breaking news that the T-shirt cannon has smiled.
Did he box out to get it?
I don't know. I'll have to get full details later on. I think the Clippers are in a dogfight right now with the Pistons. I think no matter what happens, my son will walk away happy in this game. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's just like, it's the same thing. Obviously it's a different degree, but it's the same thing with Trae Young in Atlanta. This is a guy who is the best player they've had since who? Joe Johnson? Dominique, arguably. Like, you could argue Dikembe, like, regardless, he's, for a Hawks franchise that hasn't had a lot of highs,
he's been the face of the franchise for the better part of 7-8 years.
For a better part of a decade, he got them to a conference finals.
Another guy who was traded for Luka.
Yes. But he's had a really good career in Atlanta. Yes. He's a really popular player. He's still putting up big numbers. It's not like he's fallen off a cliff. So
you go to a Hawks game, there's a lot of guys.
There's a lot of 10 jerseys. There's a lot of 10 jerseys.
Those numbers.
So the anchoring of that, again, if you're going, hey, we're moving on from Trae Young, okay, what's the return? Well, the return is getting out of next year's money. Like, I would argue getting out of next year's money is a good return for whether it's the Mavericks for AD or for the Hawks for Trae Young. But that's easy for me to say sitting here and not the person who's executing the trade.
Trae Young's number 11, just to be clear.
Sorry,
no matter,
number 11.
I was like, I didn't think he was number 10, but I didn't want to.
No, number 11. It's been a long day.
Yeah, you're jet lagged. I get it. At the end of the day, Trae Young at 30% of your cap for any teams, it's a tough sell right now. That's just, that doesn't mean he can't be a productive player. It's just really hard at 30% of your cap.
Well, and
that's just it.
The other thing here, though, is for the Hawks to be any kind of threat to make a playoff run, they are going to need a Trae Young type of offensive talent. It's just probably a guy who's a better fit for this current roster than Trae Young. And
I will say
Jalen Johnson can become that. Maybe they get that with the Pelicans pick, but they're not a threat this year is my point.
So defensively is where they're obviously suffering. I will say in the game since Trae Young came back, Jalen Johnson's numbers have actually increased. He's averaging 27 a game on 55% shooting, 10 rebounds.
I mean, they've
a
had
game.
some crazy scoring games that they've lost in this run. They're just
right.
I mean,
he's also
their defense
still
has just
averaging.
been horrific.
He's still averaging 9 assists a game since Trae came back. So it's not like they've taken the ball out of his hands. They have come in with a plan about how they're going to keep Jalen Johnson highly involved in their offense, and it's working. So I don't think this is a matter of like Trae doing something wrong or like, hogging the ball or whatever.
No, the issues are all at one end of the court. It's the bottom line. Their defense has gone off a cliff, and as a result, so is their record. And the fit just isn't there. And so
here's the point.
Will it change between now and February 5th?
The 5 games they've lost with Trae in the lineup since he's returned. Here's how many points they scored: 126, 150, 123, 111, and 125. I think we can all say, they've got some defensive issues.
By the way, to go back to AD, I was texting with Jeff Stotts, our friend of the pod, and I asked him what you mentioned that 13 number in terms of his groin injuries that he had logged in his database. Jeff has this database that goes back a very long time, and I asked him, how many times have you logged anything for AD in your database? And I double checked with him, and it's data entries for injury and illness, to be clear. But do you guys want to guess the number of entries for AD?
50.
Well,
50.
I was going to say, I'll take 49 to try to win the Price is Right.
The answer is 195.
Oh no.
My gracious.
Now remember, this is anytime the guy is in an illness or injury of any kind. So, however,
so how many has he played? Has he played 15 years? Is this his 15th season?
This is his 14th or 15th season. He was a 12 draftee, so I think it's year 14.
All right, so just on average, that's 14 entries a season.
Yeah. So Anthony Davis ranks second all time in his database. Who do you think ranks first? It was a little whiz of the quiz. It's not Kawhi.
Kawhi hasn't played long enough.
Kawhi has a career high 46 points in this game.
I was going to say
the third quarter.
The third quarter is not over.
Yes.
Kawhi, 46 is a career high?
That's the Clippers PR staff just tweeted it out.
I might have to get back in an Uber.
They're up by 22 on their way to a fourth straight win. It's been a very interesting week for the Clippers. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Way to leave that one, Wendy.
Who do we think is
my son and wife will see history.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't think Embiid's been in the league long, and it has to be somebody who's. I'm just going to guess Vince Carter because he was in the league 22 years.
It's not Vince Carter. Right kind of guess though.
Dirk?
Longevity is the right guess. Not Dirk. I think there's one fairly obvious guess that hasn't been guessed yet.
Well, LeBron hasn't been long
LeBron
enough.
James is the answer.
Is that right?
Really?
205.
Okay. Huh.
That's. I wonder how many with the Lakers because it's.
Well, again, you're talking 23 seasons. He's played almost 10 more years than Anthony Davis.
All right, so let me run that. What did you say? 205?
Yeah, it's a little.
So it's an average of 9.
Yeah,
9.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just didn't think he'd had that many injuries, but I guess.
So full credit to Jeff. And again, that's any time a guy shows up on the injury report with anything.
I understand.
But still, it's That's a lot of entries.
Yeah, I mean, I guess LeBron had that like whole season where he was on the injury list every game for that foot.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I don't know the exact breakdown of what Barrett's.
It's like Tom Brady's shoulder. Remember when Brady would be in every injury report with his shoulder?
I thought it was his knee,
but full credit to Jeff
and
his database. Like it's
that's one of a kind.
Thing.
That database is one of a kind.
Yeah.
There are probably teams that don't have records on their own team, much less every player in the league.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, a team that's sort of overachieving. Let's welcome the Brooklyn Nets to the Hoop Collective, because they're in the bottom three of teams we discuss, and they have earned our attention because they've won 7 of their last 10 games. It actually coincides with December 1st. I think they've played 10 games in December. And anyway, they've won 7 of 10. They've won 3 in a row. Guys, in this 10-game span, they're number 1 in the league in defense, which is a stunner because between the middle of October when the season started and mid-November, first 2 months of the year, they were 29th in defense. And over the last 15 games, they've been second to the Thunder. In the last 10 games, they've been first.
In the month of December, the Nets have a defensive rating of 103.5 that is 3 entire points better than the Oklahoma City Thunder over the same period.
Well, they don't have to play the Spurs all the time.
And they have a net rating in the month of December of 10.3, which is only behind the Celtics and, again, the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's pretty good company for the Brooklyn Nets to be in.
Yeah, and so now I will point out Cam Thomas is a guy who he's been out for most of these games. This is a guy who's not known for his defense, although he came back the other night and came off the bench and put up 30 in Minnesota. And the Nets gave the Timberwolves such a jolt that the Minnesota fans, I think the previous home game, they beat the Thunder. And then the next home game, they lose to the Nets. They get booed, and Ant says they should have booed us. But Cam Thomas did have 30 off the bench, and he was plus 21 in his first game back. As I've talked to people and gotten their opinions, one of the things that happened when Cam Thomas went out, he was out about a month. But just in general, Jordy Fernandez, by the way, you remember earlier this season, they started out 0-7 or 0-8. And at one point, Jordy was like frustrated and he was like, I can't get these guys to play hard. And Michael Porter Jr. at one point like criticized the team's guard play. At one point, they have the 5 rookies this year. They call them the Flatbush 5. The Nets fans do. At one point, Jordy stopped playing them or cut their playing time because they were getting roasted on defense so bad. So it's been, obviously they're in a rebuilding situation. They traded for their pick back this year, and they're not trying to make the playoffs. But there was a lot of frustration, and they've totally turned it around. But one of the things that's happened when Cam Thomas went out, Jordy started playing a really, really long lineup. And Bontemps, you have talked about these teams who are really long. You've talked about the Spurs, how you saw them play recently and just how long they are. Well, if you look at the lineups that the Nets have been playing, not only Michael Porter, who's 6'10" out there, but they've put Noah Clowney in the starting lineup. And with Noah Clowney and Nick Claxton in there, and Michael Porter, they're just really, really long. It's resulted in like really great numbers in their paint defense. Like it's hard to score on them in the paint. They've got shot blockers and defenders in there. And look, I mean, the numbers don't lie. Jordy's got him playing with really good defense. They're playing with long lineups. And Michael Porter Jr. is playing great. He's shooting 47% from three-pointers during this last 10 games. And guys, look at the last 19 games that Michael, because he missed some games with his back tightened up a few weeks ago when he missed a couple games. They're 10-9 in games, the last 19 games Michael Porter's played in.
Well, I mean, Michael Porter is another example of the same corollary we were talking about earlier with Trae Young and Anthony Davis, where Michael Porter Jr. is a very good player. He's a flawed player, but he's a very good player. And he was part of a championship-winning team in Denver. And like we talked about at the time, Cam Johnson's a nice player, but that was not a talent upgrade for Denver. It was a salary reduction to get another good player in to replace Michael Porter to get them below the second apron and to get out of the tax that they could entirely. That, I don't remember exactly where they wound up, but that was what the motivation for that deal was. You're muted, MacMahon.
Jackson finally had enough.
To create
By the way,
flexibility
in
so
real
they can
time
upgrade
here,
the
Kawhi
bench.
has 51 through 3 quarters.
Yeah,
Yes.
25 in the third. He's been on an absolute heater.
Do I need to pause this? Well, they're up by 23.
No,
I mean, it's
Do
not
I need
like
to
you're
pause
gonna-
this and go
it's
back
not-
to
we'll-
the
we'll-
It's not like
we'll
you're
talk
going to
about
write
the
off the
Clippers.
game. Like when that's grunt
I'm
work.
sorry. I'm
You
just
don't do
giving a
that.
real. I'm sorry. I'm just giving a real time update.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Bontemps and me do grunt work. You don't.
Yeah, we'll circle back to the Clippers in a bit. But yeah, so like Michael Porter Jr. can score and is a guy who go out there and get buckets. Like he's on a team where he's being treated like their primary option and he's getting buckets. And to your point about the length that they're playing with, I'm going to see them play the Warriors on Monday. Warriors had a brutal loss in Toronto on Sunday. We're up in most of the game, blow the lead, get blown out in overtime. See how they look. But
Scotty Barnes, what he had 23 and 25 rebounds with a triple double.
He had something like 8 rebounds in overtime. He got like every rebound in overtime.
And he got the game tying offensive rebound and put back late in regulation. But the Warriors not a big team, and if you look at this Nets team, these 6 guys have played in at least 9. Michael Porter has played in 9. The other guys have played in all 10 of these games in December. Danny Wolf, who's a 7-foot rookie. Day'Ron Sharpe, who's a 6'8", hard rebounding big man.
Mm-hmm.
Yegor Djemin, who's the 8th overall pick, who's another 6'8", big guard. Porter, who's a 6'10" forward. Claxton, who's another 6'10" center. And Noah Clowney, who's another 6'10" wing. So like those, to your point, that's 6 guys all playing fairly heavy minutes that are all big and long. And if you're rolling them all out there, that's just a lot of space that's being gobbled up all at once.
Well, and listen, I've compared, there's different styles here, obviously. But to me, the Nets and the Jazz are in the same boat where they've got really good young coaches and you're just not going to be able to get great lottery odds if you have anything resembling NBA talent with Jordy Fernandez as your coach or with Will Hardy as your coach. Maybe you can get lucky and bounce up in the lottery, but the Jazz, like there's this spotlight on the Jazz now, which by the way, the Jazz who are coming off a back-to-back when they beat the Pistons and the Spurs, there's this spotlight on the Jazz now because people are like bracing for the tank so they can keep their top 8 protected pick that turns into dust after this year. But, we'll see how that unfolds. But like Brooklyn, going in the season, Brooklyn was expected to be one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like they were expected to be, I think it's safe to say, a bottom 3 or 4 team in the league, just based on talent. And then their number 1 or 2 offensive option missed most of the season so far, and they're not like a threat to make the playoffs or anything, but they're pesky.
I mean, they were 3-16. They're now 10-19.
Right.
Yeah.
I went and looked. They went from number 3 right now. They're, tankathon. They're 6th. And they were, I think, second or third. And the Jazz, we sit here today, the Jazz are in 9th, which is the magic number. And look, there's 2/3 of the season left. But, 1/3 in, the Jazz are in 9th. Keontae George has hit some big shots. Does he have 2 game winners this year now?
He has 3 go-ahead shots in the last 5 seconds.
That's 3. That's 3
including the game winner the other night against
Detroit.
the Pistons. And he's like Keontae George is absolutely, if he's not the front runner for most improved player, he better be on any short list.
He's on the list.
But we've been saying about the Jazz because they haven't had the super high pick in the lottery. We've been saying like they need one of these recent first rounders to really pop. Keontae George wasn't a lottery pick, but he's the young recent first rounder who's finally really popped for them. And honestly, last year was a disappointing year. Like Will Hardy basically cussed him out during his exit interview, and he responded to that the way that they hoped he would. And the guy's averaging 24 a game, like 24 and 7. and been great in clutch situations and looks like he can be a cornerstone for them moving forward. They think Ace Bailey's going to be a cornerstone too. So there's some things, that it's just like you can envision the Jazz competing for a play-in, even a playoff spot in the near future. It's just it's very tough to see them really becoming a team that has a chance to make a deep playoff run unless they either get lucky with a pick or lucky in the lottery.
We were not on site, obviously, for that Jazz Spurs game, but I wouldn't say it's the best look for Victor Wembanyama to go from banging the drum after beating the Thunder to not talking after their 8-game winning streak ends.
By the way,
Utah against the Jazz.
Okay. I will say this. I do think banging the drum is pretty cool. So
I think banging the drum is very cool.
So
I think it's awesome.
In case people didn't see it, so the more and more teams are developing, and they have for years, but are developing these sort of fanatical sections.
Wemby developed a section.
No, the Spurs thing is next level, and that's all from
the
Victor
Jackals
doing it.
Yeah, and Victor, this is a European thing. We see in soccer. Proper football. And, Victor is, he works with them. And so he's developed this post game.
He was the judge for the tryouts for the group.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was. Right. I mean, it's all his idea. It's a very cool thing.
So in the same spirit as lighting of the beam, it's the same concept, something to rally around when you win. Bring out a drum and, match it with clapping. And it is really cool to have your franchise player engage with your fans. And I will say this, that from his rookie season, Victor really embraced the crowd in San Antonio, wanted to cultivate it. I was at a game in his second year where they beat I think they beat the Knicks in overtime. It was a tremendous game. Jalen Brunson scored 60. Victor had 40 and 20. It was an amazing game. By the way, my son was at that game too, and now he's going to see Kawhi. I don't know if he understands what he's seeing. But anyway, after that game, we grabbed the mic and he just talked about the crowd and everything like that. So he's looked for that a long time. I think it's really cool that he's doing this. But to your point, Bontemps,
we love all of Victor's talking. Victor's great talking after games all the time. It's just if you're gonna brag after wins, like don't disappear when you lose in Utah. That's all.
Being the face of the franchise is a full-time job, and I would even say it's more important for the face of the franchise to be accountable and in that spokesman role after a loss than it is after wins. Look, and this is not unique. A lot of young guys do. These young, very competitive guys that get pissed off when they lose. It was a bad loss for them. They'd been rolling and
it's not the end of the world. It's just,
it was the classic letdown type of game, whatever. But, Scott Tomlin, the former Mavs PR guy, came to an agreement with Luka when this was something Luka would do is he'd get mad, he'd blow the media off after losses. And the agreement was, hey, there can be some times where you don't talk post game, but it's got to be after a win when you weren't like the main character of the game. After losses, you got to be there every single time because you're the guy who everybody wants to hear from. You're the guy who is supposed, for better or for worse, or the face of the franchise sets the tone for everybody else. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I did think it was a bad look, and hopefully it's something that Wemby can learn from because, you can't do that. Well, I promise you this.
That's the post-game access police right there.
Exactly. But after every Thunder loss, unless Shea is in street clothes, he's going to be talking. And by the way,
Shea was sitting there. Shea sat there after they lost 3 in a row to the Spurs and said they're better than us.
And look, LeBron's no longer the face of the franchise for the Lakers, but he's freaking LeBron James. So him blowing
LeBron
off media the other night was a
given
terrible
more interviews than any NBA player in history.
Well, that's fine.
So, that's fine.
Guess what? Yeah. You're still on a max contract. You're still LeBron James.
No, I understand.
When the Lakers lose, for him to duck out the back door is a bad look.
None of it's a character assassination, but it's just, if we're going to praise Victor all the time, which we do, deservedly so, does that, it's worth pointing out it wasn't great. That's all.
Yeah. I will say this, with every Utah win, the stage gets more set for how extreme the Jazz will go, or willing to go, how extreme the Jazz players are willing to, because, like Lauri Markkanen can push back if they're deactivating him for not real reasons if he wants. And whether the league does anything. The league hit the Jazz last year with a fine. It's on center stage right now. What happens with the Jazz?
But again, we're talking about this right after they beat the Pistons and the Spurs in a back-to-back.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing to consider too is two of the teams behind them in the standings are the Mavericks, who've been playing much better, and we'll see how long AD is out. But if AD isn't traded and AD plays the rest of the year, Dallas is probably going to be better than them. And look, this game isn't over. Maybe I'll rue these words, but the Clippers are up 18, 8 to go in the fourth quarter, and Kawhi has 51. They're about to have won 4 in a row.
In 32 minutes.
They beat 24-25 in the third quarter. They beat the Rockets the other day. Maybe think we're about to talk about the Clippers anyway. You were there, Brian, but
yeah,
there's certainly a world where the Clippers somewhat get back on track. They're only a couple losses back of the Jazz, and they get ahead of them also, and then the math starts to look
well. And the Clippers are obviously
the
motivated to win as many games as possible. There's
right.
no benefit in them being bad.
That's right.
Well, there is.
I spent several hours talking to folks between the Clippers and the Pistons tonight. By the way, the Pistons' second straight year that they have had to be on the West Coast on Christmas without playing on Christmas, which it happens to teams. But 2 years in a row is kind of tough. And I think one of the other Pistons staffers told me that it was several times in the last 5 years it's happened.
Last couple of days aside, if the Pistons keep playing like they have been the first couple months of the season, they might be playing on Christmas next season.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah, that's true. They're in the process of maybe losing another game here, but Christmas for the Pistons was spent in Salt Lake City. They had the choice of staying in Sacramento or going to Salt Lake, and the team went to Salt Lake.
An enviable choice.
They had 2 days off, and some of the players did take some time and go someplace else. But the bulk of the team was toasted Christmas. A lot of their families came. By the way, speaking of families, a lot of families are on the road right now, and we mentioned the Nets. Jordy Fernandez's birthday was, I think, Saturday, and the Nets and his family was there, and his kids surprised him with the cake after shoot around, and the whole team sang happy birthday to him in Spanish. So that was cool.
Muy bien.
Yeah.
Jordy's family's around a lot of games. He's got younger kids, and he comes out. He also, like Will, is one of these young head coaches that doesn't just sit in his office all day before the game. So he comes out to the court and says hello to people. His kids are around a lot. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. So anyway, the Clippers. The Clippers are on the way to their fourth win. The Pistons, won't give up because that's
this is going to be an epic jinx when they come back and
it's 19 points with 6 minutes left.
I feel pretty good.
I'm looking over here right now, I
feel pretty good, but we'll see.
So in talking to the Clippers, a few things. One, obviously, Ivica Zubac went out with the injury. And so what has happened is Brook Lopez has gone to the starting lineup. Now, look, everybody will tell you that Brook Lopez has pretty much, for the bulk of the season so far, just not been good. But they will also tell you that Brook Lopez has been an absolute total pro, showing up at 8 a.m. on practice days and staying late and doing all of his work. And, it's one thing to say that a guy is a pro. It's another thing when you're playing terribly and losing minutes and doing it at age 37, and that his work ethic never changed. And so what's ended up happening here is, as he's gone into the starting lineup, which is where he's been for 95% of his career, the floor spacing, he's a floor spacer compared to Zubac, who doesn't shoot threes. Zubac does a lot for the team, but the floor spacing has definitely helped James Harden. Harden is now operating with a little bit more space to drive, and when he kicks, there's, the floor is stretched a little bit, and the shooters have some more time, and their 3-point percentage is going up. And even like tonight, Lopez isn't having a great shooting night, but like even in the first half, you could tell in the game plan that the Pistons were certainly aware that Lopez just had a 9 3-pointer game. He made 9 3-pointers the other night in Portland. Pistons were aware of it. You could see them guarding him a little bit, and that opened up some more isolations for Harden and for Kawhi. Now, look, at the end of the day, Kawhi is heating up, and that's probably the biggest reason why they're getting going. Obviously, tonight he's red hot. He's 17 of 24. He's hit 5 threes, but a bunch of those are from mid range. He's also getting to the foul line. So their offense is, at the time when it needed it, is getting getting that sort of spacing influx. Derek Jones Jr. is just back from injury, and he should help their defense. And look, it's a small sample size. It's four games. Obviously, their defense for the first 3 months of the season was putrid. They went from a top 5 defensive team to a bottom 5 defensive team. And there's accountability for that. There's their lack of athleticism, their inability to get back after turnovers, all that stuff is true. But there has been this is what the folks in and around the team say, there has been an improvement in returning to the defensive principles. They've tried to be better at that end of the court. Now, if they win this game tonight, which it's now a 15-point game,
keep talking.
If they win this game tonight, they'll be 10 and 21. Okay, there are 51 games left. They acknowledge that, a top 6 seed is probably out of their grasp. But with 50 games left, if they can get health for Kawhi and Harden and they can start to get some traction here, they are not at all giving up on this season. And they don't own their pick, so they wouldn't anyway.
Sure, there's no benefit to giving up. They can, and look, if they're a play-in team, do I think they're going to pull off an upset? No, but hey, they took the Nuggets to 7 games last year. There's a reason we all thought they were a top 6 team in the Western Conference. Like, they were a really, really good team last year. I don't know anybody who thought they were going to fall off a cliff like they did for the first, third of the season.
No. And listen, we have seen as this year has gone on that age in the NBA right now is not a positive thing generally, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen younger team, the team the Clippers are playing today is a prime example, right? Like, Pistons have been off to a great start. Spurs have been off to a great start. Rockets off to a great start. We've seen youth really come to the fore this year in a lot of different ways.
Thunder still young.
Yeah, right. Thunder, obviously, they're one of the younger teams in the league. But, in like youth and athleticism in general, the Clippers have not a lot of either. So that is obviously one thing. However, I will go back to another team that Brook Lopez was on, the 2013-14 Brooklyn Nets, who I covered, who were an example of a team that had a horrendous start like this, looked like things were completely off the rails. Jason Kidd was going to be fired if they didn't win a game in the city Tim MacMahon is in right now, in Oklahoma City, after they started that season 10 and 21 on New Year's Eve, getting absolutely smacked by the Spurs and could have lost the game by 70. I think they lost it by 28. And Brook Lopez was out for the season with a broken foot. Things look completely off the rails. And then they changed some principles around on defense. They started playing Kevin Garnett at center and Paul Pierce at power forward. And they closed the season going 34 and 17. They get the 44 wins. They end up making the second round of the playoffs. Now, I am not saying, to be clear, that I think the Clippers are going to go 34 and 17 to close the season and completely turn things around. But to go back to the beginning of the podcast and the conversation around all of these high-priced players, Kawhi Leonard is still a tremendous player when he's locked in like this. However, there is not a trade market for Kawhi Leonard around the league, I don't think. And I think James Harden is still a very good player. I believe I voted for him for All-NBA last year. He made the All-Star team, had a great year. I don't think there's a ton of trade interest in James Harden either. So if you are the Clippers and you don't have your draft pick and you are pot committed to this team,
I do think, by the way, on Harden, I do think there are teams that would trade for him, but he's not available now.
I don't mean the teams. My point is, teams would have interest in getting James Harden, but they're not getting back some crazy return for him. So they're not getting back talent-wise.
Well, he makes $40 million, and it's hard to execute a trade.
Well, that's why
you're trading for James Harden because you're trying to make a run in the playoffs, and it's hard to execute a trade for a guy making $40
It goes back to the little conversation we had at the beginning. So again, if you're the Clippers and there's no incentive for you to be bad, like the only thing you can really do is look at your team and say, how can we try to lean into what we have and figure out a way out of this mess? And we'll see. This is now I thought it was going to be an 11-point game. We'll see. This may be really an all-time jinx.
This is going to be
a classic.
If they do win this game, they'll have won 4 in a row. They'll have had a couple of really impressive wins.
Jackson, how many times can we say if they've?
Well, it's today's NBA, whereas we know there are all sorts of comebacks, but.
We at least have to extend this podcast until the game is over or at least decided.
Well, and also
the Clippers haven't scored in like 3 minutes.
Hey, we haven't talked about Giannis yet. We still have time.
Yes, we do. But the bottom of the West, outside the top 5-6 teams, ain't exactly murderer's row. So the Clippers, even after this insanely bad start they've had, are still only a couple games out of the play-in. Like they're another good week from being in the top 10. And if they're ninth and they have to beat, say, Memphis and Phoenix to get in the playoffs, the Clippers aren't going to be like, oh, we have no chance to do that.
Yeah, Memphis they'll like lost to Washington tonight, by the way.
Yes, with Dillon Brooks, by the way, sitting courtside watching because the Suns are playing the Wizards on Monday. At one point, they cut out of a commercial, and there's Dillon Brooks sitting there baseline watching the game. I was like, what is Dillon Brooks doing?
He can talk trash to 2 teams at once.
Well,
well, I will say this about the Clippers before we move on. They are a very old team, but during this stretch, which has been a lot of losing, they have started to play some younger guys, and they have found some guys that they trust putting in their rotation. Jordan Miller, Kobe Sanders, and even their first-round draft pick from this last year with Zubac out, Yannick Niederhauser, who was in the G League for a bunch of this year.
You were nervous about that pronunciation.
I could see that tensing up as he was going to say it.
Come on, I was talking to people about him tonight. That was the
you
pick
mispronounced
swap.
Zubac after you had him on the podcast.
Yeah, I was mispronouncing it to his face like 3 times. The Clippers still haven't scored like in now 3.5 minutes. We're just killing time here. Anyway, they've played these younger guys, and I don't know. Hopefully, they can stay in the rotation, but that's happened. Okay, you mentioned Giannis. So Giannis came back. He'd been gone for 3-4 weeks, dealing with the calf injury. The Bucks had gone 2-6 without him. They come back. I think they're in 10th or 11th place. On the edge of the play-in right now, and he has a great game. Scored 30 points. Chicago had won 5 in a row because all roads lead to 39 wins.
He had 27 points until about 5 seconds to go in the game.
And boy, listen, that cap didn't bother him when he hit the accelerator at about half.
So he got a breakaway with less than 24 seconds where the team ahead, I think they were ahead by 9 or so.
Something. The game was over.
Yeah. They were in the spot where the team dribbles the ball out.
Yeah, it was less than 10
The Clippers just hit a 3. Everybody relax. They were in the point where if you are ahead by 3 or 4 possessions, you're dribbling the game out. He did not dribble it out. He went to the other end and threw down a hellacious windmill dunk that if you were at the United Center, you probably remembered.
It looked like a slam dunk contest dunk.
Yeah, it was an awesome dunk.
Yeah.
It was the most inspirational stat padding in NBA history. Oh, he just wanted to inspire the troops. Watch me pad my stats, guys, and then watch the other team get mad, and you guys deal with the mess in the middle of the court. I'm going to walk right off the floor to the locker room. That is leadership, baby. God, I was inspired by that.
Well, I thought it was interesting that, the Bulls naturally, especially Kobe White, were not cool with it. Regardless of where you are on
Vooch was
there first. That's right.
Yeah.
Vooch was the guy who got to him first. The funny thing I thought, now listen, as a guy, I love Bobby Portis. Okay. I love Bobby Portis as a guy. I got to know him and his family during the 2023 World Cup. But Bobby comes running onto the court in full warm-ups. And he is defending Giannis, but I got to tell you, if the situation was reversed and somebody did that to the Bucks, Bobby would have been in their face for the other thing. Bobby was just doing what his role is. But look, regardless of where you are on whether you think that, you shouldn't score at the end of the game.
It's going to be a thing if you do it.
Of course. He knew exactly what he was doing. And then after the game, Giannis posted a photo of the dunk on X and celebrated it. He explained that he needs to fire up his team and inspire his team, that if they're going to make a run, that and he's missed so much time, he just wants to enjoy it.
Okay.
Whatever.
Let's read
he knew
the quote is something else though.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay. Read it.
So he started getting asked a question. Says, do you want to be here if you guys are not going to be able to?
No, read the quote about the dunk first.
Well, it's okay. I thought you were asking me to read about that. I don't have that.
And then we'll get to that one.
I don't have that one right in front of me. But it was essentially, the essential quote was, this is going to, hold on, I got it right here. Okay. Quote. What, we're 11th in the East? Are we 11th in the East or 12th, 11th? Just got to keep finding our identity. And if that is to get a little bit of scrappy at the end, so be it. We're not the champs. Why should we play the clock out and have respect and fair play? We're fighting for our lives right now.
Why should we have fair play?
This is real talk. I've been 13 years in the league. If we keep on losing, brother, probably half the team's not going to be here. We're not going to make the playoffs. I really don't care. At the end of the day, I just want to be available, be healthy, and help my team win. And if that's what has to happen for them, everybody to wake up and understand we're fighting for our lives and we got to get our hands dirty, so be it. I think that's an interesting explanation for just deciding
everybody follow me. I'm stat padding. The truth
as you said,
here we go.
As you said, my favorite part was a picture that was shown of every guy on both teams at center court arguing and Giannis just walking off.
You know who the best leader in NBA history was? Russell Westbrook for the Thunder. Because padding stats is leadership, baby.
Oh, Lord.
Well, at least it wasn't Mark Williams and Jose Alvarado, who had a good old-fashioned fist fight. I think they both landed blows on each other.
I think
that
Jose definitely landed. Jose landed a punch. I think Mark
got suspended
Williams
for 2
landed
games.
a smack. Yeah.
Okay, it was a smack.
Yeah, because Williams got a game, Jose Alvarado got 2 games. But then Bontemps, the other quote. And this is listen, man. Again, I have said many times, if Giannis wants to ask out of Milwaukee, he has every right in the world to do it. He should be treated as nothing but a legend in Milwaukee. It's odd. The guy, not only will his jersey hang from the rafters, there should be a statue. There will be.
There will be.
But for him to let this thing linger literally for years and just the passive aggressiveness and then act like it's offensive to ask for a status update? Come on, dude.
Well, listen, whatever your opinion is of that, right? Let's get to the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter is, one of the biggest stories in the league over the past month or so has been, will Giannis Antetokounmpo be a Buck on February 6th or not, right? And my belief the whole time has been there will not be some public declaration from Giannis or his camp that he will be traded during the season. And that goes, to me, we're doing actions over words. And the actions for the past however many years has been Giannis has done everything but want to go near doing that, right? So after the game, they win this game. I don't know who asked the question. This is from.
It was the bass tones of Jamal Collier.
Oh, it's our guy Jamal. Okay, great. I was reading this from Kurt Hellen's write-up of it at Basketball Talk. So during his post-game media session, Giannis was asked, quote, "Do you want to be here if you guys are not going to be able to?" And he got cut off. Giannis cut off Jamal then. And then he said this, I'm here. Don't ask me that question. I'm here. It's disrespectful toward myself and my teammates. I wear that jersey every single day. It's disrespectful towards the organization, my coaching staff, myself, and all the people that work hard for me to come out here and say I don't want to be here. Don't ask me that question. I'm here. I'm putting on the jersey. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to give everything I have, even in the last second of the game. Now, he did say as long as I'm here, so you could say, okay, what does that mean? However, Giannis has been very open about this point the whole time and not wanting it to be out there that he is asked out of Milwaukee. Now, to your point, MacMahon, you can say this, it's crazy the way this has been handled, and the am I out, whatever, has been this long-standing thing that's hung over the franchise. I get all that.
And that kind of commitment is what he expressed in the meeting with the owner that he doesn't remember it happening.
Well,
go on.
That's all fine, right? But I think we would all agree the actions of the Bucks, again, to go to the pod motto, actions over words. The actions of the Bucks, the entire time Giannis has been there, especially the past several years when John Horst has been running the team, has been pedal to the floor. We're going to damn the torpedoes. We're going to trade everything we can to get better and try to improve and try to make a run with this guy on the team and try to keep him here, right?
And that's still the case.
And that's still the case. And I think unless Giannis Antetokounmpo in the next 5 weeks says, get me out of here, I don't want to be here anymore, I think that's going to be what happens. And I think he's going to be on the team on February 6th. And I suspect the Bucks are going to improve their roster. And they're going to trade the remaining draft stuff they have and salary, go try to get better, because that's the only thing they've done year after year after year now for 5, 6, 7 years. And you could say that's it's dumb for Giannis to do that. It's dumb for the Bucks to do whatever you want to say about it doesn't really change to me the reality of the situation, which is unless there is a public declaration of, I want to play somewhere else, it's time for me to go, which he's been very vocal about not wanting to do that. I don't see why this situation is going to be any different 6 weeks from today than where it is right now. Which would mean a boring trade deadline.
Wendy's just looking at the Clippers score and
no, I mean
the Clippers are going to win comfortably.
Yeah, that's all fine. I would just say that the Bucks have got to start winning because it's you can make. I mean there are trades that the Bucks could make. There's I don't want to get aggregated, but there's guys on
trades,
their roster.
We can just say there's trades they can make. We don't have to.
Yeah.
They're
There's
not,
trades
they're
that
not
they
impacted.
can make.
They have a draft pick. They've got some draft assets. They're not in the tax because of the Dame Lillard wave and stretch. They have full flexibility to do a lot of different stuff.
They could add a piece or two, but if they don't start winning more, because like I said, basically this year they've been slightly over 500 with Giannis in the lineup and way under 500 without him. And so if you want to believe he's going to play every game the rest of the way, they've got to demonstrate that they're more than a 500-ish team with him.
Well, is being 6 games under 500 and out of the play-in picture, is that failure or is that steps to success?
Well, the team is not good enough. Now, we can debate about if they put a couple of pieces of their roster together and trade for a player of depressed value that, seems like it's a big name. And, does that make him 6th? I don't know. But Giannis is
what the Bucks would argue, right, is in the 18 games he's played, in the 520 minutes he's played, they're plus 10 or plus 9.5. Now, I would argue They're minus 9.5 when he doesn't play, and that swing is indicative of the rest of the roster, the 19-point differential in the negative direction when he's not playing. And I don't think they have the depth to necessarily make a real run in the Eastern Conference. However,
their ceiling is getting bounced in the first round. Let's just
I agree. I have said I think they should have traded Giannis a year and a half ago if you were just looking at it from a holistic, long-term, what's the best time to maximize his value trade situation, right? But that's not what we're talking about. And if you look at the Eastern Conference right now, the team with the best record in the conference just lost to Utah and the Clippers. They're a team that's never won anything in the playoffs. The Cavs corner has been...
Detroit lost to the Mavericks recently, too. It's been a rough little... Yeah.
Cavs corner is a mess. The Knicks are a top-heavy team that if Jalen Brunson gets hurt, they're in the same boat as anybody else. Like, the Bucks can sit there and look in the mirror and say, we have the best player in the conference. If we had some stuff, why couldn't we make a run? Now, I don't think they're making a run, but this is what you do when you don't want to trade the best player that's ever played for your team, and you're only going to do it if the guy says, it's time for me to go, which is why this to me is always led to Giannis plays the season out. And then we get to the real moment of truth this summer when he's presented with every contract extension he could want. And it said to him, what would you like to do? And if he says, I think I'm going to wait, okay, then you have your answer as to what's going on, and then you make a trade. But that point isn't right now unless Giannis says it's time to go. And I think this whole situation, as silly as it was with the dunk and everything else, it was another opportunity for him to say anything other than, I'm going to be here. And instead, he said, don't ask me about being here. I'm not going to say I'm not going to be here. Well, okay, then where's it going to end? I think it's going to end with him being on the Bucks on February 6th.
What's most important is that the Clippers won by 14. They held another opponent under 100 points. They're going to give up 99 points during this 4-game win streak. This was the first game of a 5-game homestand. The next 2 games are against the Kings and Jazz.
Kawhi, 55 points, 17 for 26 shooting, 5 for 10 from 3, 16 for 17 from the line, 11 boards, 2 assists, 5 steals, 3 blocks, 39
I wasn't watching the second half, but with Kawhi, because I think Hard went to the line like 10 or 11 times too. I'm wondering if JB had anything to say about some of this.
They were a combined 27 for 28 from the foul line. Derek Jones took first game back from what looked like a rough knee injury. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad. He took 1 free throw. Looked like he had an and 1. The entire Pistons team was 24 for 28. And that was all the free throws in the game. So there you go.
All right. Well, the clip joint is doing well. All right. That's enough for tonight. All right. Well, everybody look forward to a good New Year's week. Thank you to Devon and Jackson for putting this together. Thank you to MacMahon and Bontemps. Thank you to you for watching and listening to the Hoop Collective. We'll talk to you in a couple days.
Adios, amigos.